all art is trying to figure out what life means, and struggling with the like absurd reality that there is no meaning.
Coming at you with Subversion.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to another edition of Subversion, where I will be dissecting the life and times of the musician that you'll come to hear in this interview, who is Dylan Boyle. This guy has really got his hands on some pretty good music himself, and he lists here in the episode a lot of bands that I'm going to try to compile a list of, not only for myself, but for you too, because I've checked out just a couple of his recommendations, and they're really awesome bands. So anyway, let's just jump kind of right into it, but before I do that, I'm going to take a different approach to these charity events or these charity projects here. I'm going to stick with kind of just one or two at a time until they get fully funded, because a lot of these charity projects end up kind of dropping off on DonorSee. So I'm going to kind of give some attention to ones that haven't gotten fully there yet. So from last week's episode, I'm going to continue with this one. It's in Uganda, and you can find it at donorsee.com/project/487. It goes to the Nakasaki Children's Home. If you want to know more about DonorSee, I actually have a bonus episode with the founder, Gret Glyer. If you just go to subversionwebcast.com/Gret Glyer, or just scroll back a couple episodes there on the RSS feed and listen to that. He's a really interesting guy, and he's got a lot to say about the state of charity in the world. But anyway, I'm going to jump right into this interview here. I hope you like it, and I will see you at the end.
My name is Dylan Boyle. I'm originally from Burlington, Iowa. I grew up there and lived all 18 years of my younger years there, and then traveled up to Ames for college and lived in Des Moines for a while. Now I live out in Seattle, and I've been playing music for around live anyways, about 10 years, but been playing guitar since middle school, and got a bunch of different stuff I've done. Used to play in a band called Peace, Love, and Stuff, and a band called Mumfords, and I had a band called Risky Revival, and then a band called Electric Jury, which is kind of my most recent one. That's kind of some prog rock stuff, and then I played lead guitar with a bunch of people like Courtney Krause and Dan Tedesco from Iowa, and then do a bunch of weird solo stuff as well. So it's kind of all over the map. But right now I've been mostly focusing on solo stuff, and been writing a lot more tunes for that kind of arrangement.
Okay. So were any of those bands you listed, were some of those Iowa bands, I take it?
Yeah, all of them were actually. I just moved out to Seattle in mid-November. My girlfriend's lived out here the last couple of years, and she's got a really good job, so I kind of decided to make the trek out. So before it was all playing mostly central Iowa bands, mostly either Ames or Des Moines,
So, and I'd like to ask you a little bit more about your current project you got going on right now, but
Sure.
First, maybe I'd like to focus on sort of your origin story. So you said you're born and raised in Iowa, like myself, and so Burlington, where's that near again?
That's southeast Iowa. It's about an hour south of the Quad Cities. It's right on the Mississippi River. Highway 61 goes through it, and it's got a good blues tradition, which is kind of like the first music that really inspired me and got me playing was older blues songs, and I think a lot of that is growing up on the Mississippi River and Highway 61, and that part of Iowa has a big blues tradition between kind of Burlington and Washington, with that's where Dave Zolo is from, and Patrick Hazel, and Bo Ramsey's from Burlington, and Greg Brown's from Iowa City in that area, and so that whole kind of Southeast Iowa uh, scene, I think, has made it kind of a pretty bluesy town. So that definitely was something that I guess shaped my playing from an early start. Uh, but I don't know. I've always been interested in like mostly playing guitar, and it wasn't really until I went to college that I really wrote lyrics or anything. And I think that's mostly because I've always been interested in like more, I guess, technical music and uh, progressive music, and I got into like Pink Floyd at a pretty young age, and then King Crimson, and that kind of started me kind of pushing my taste toward music that was always like experimenting with things, and was really into Zappa in high school and a bunch
Nice.
of instrumental guitar players, and uh, I had like all the Steve Vai albums, which was not, I don't know if that's something people reveal anymore, but I did.
You're
But
saying you think it's kind of embarrassing to be a Steve Vai fan?
I don't know, it shouldn't be, but
Yeah,
I mean
there's a
there's
stigma to
definitely,
it, right?
yeah, there's definitely like a cheese ball factor in
Yeah.
some of it, but
Man,
yeah.
I gotta tell you though, it's good music. Steve Vai is
Oh
very
yeah.
very talented. So is some of those other virtuoso guys. I can't think of any of the other names, but there are a
Oh,
lot
like
of people like Steve Vai. Um, oh God, Satriani, Joe Satriani.
Satriani and Yngwie
Um,
Malmsteen and like
uh,
all those dudes.
yeah, yeah, and I've always been compelled by that because I'm a huge, and I can relate to you in that blues has really been a huge influence for me. And
Yeah.
I'm not really like a professional guitar player or anything like that. I had always just kind of doodled, and uh,
Hmm.
the uh, the thing that really did kind of push me from because I used to play bass, and what pushed
Yeah.
me to actually want to learn guitar was listening to blues and everything, and I was so compelled by that I sort of breached into actually playing, a six string rather than just bass.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a huge prog fan too. And I was just doing a radio spot with a friend last weekend, and I said at some point, I was like, prog is like the love child of jazz and rock and roll, because
Yeah.
it's this
Totally.
perfect mix of blues, jazz, and then just this modern day. It's almost like it was like classical music for American culture, where we weren't making anything in the European classical sense anymore in popular music, but that was like the way to intellectualize rock and roll in a way, in my opinion.
Oh, totally. And there's a when you really start looking at the origins of like progressive music, there you see so much like overlap with like the kind of contemporary classical and new music and like downtown music scenes that were happening in like the 50s and 60s with like people like Terry Riley and John Cage and Lamont Young, and like a lot of those ideas were kind of adopted by like Robert Fripp with King Crimson and Pink Floyd, like the song Sisyphus uh, on Umaguma is sounds just like a Cage uh, piece, and a lot of those ideas, it's interesting how they permeate into like the popular culture, like Lamont Young's drone music. I really like, and that I think influenced a lot of like the third wave black metal bands, and a lot of people like Swans and those kind of that no wave punk sound.
So, and one thing I've been thinking of is, are you familiar with post rock at all? And I know
Oh yeah,
my listeners are
definitely.
going to get tired of me talking about post rock because I'm such a little fanboy. But, but to me, it's almost like post rock was the only the natural progression to prog rock,
Yeah,
and a lot of people who make this instrumental music are sort of, they're sort of shying away from the term post rock because it sounds so pretentious, you know.
yeah,
But it's just the best way to describe it. But anyway, I'm a huge fan of that. It's not like there's direct roots from what I can tell, but it's definitely informed by this era, and we've had sort of a slump, right? I mean,
yeah,
Tool, I think, is one of the
yeah.
most modern examples of prog rock that's still going.
Totally.
Steve Wilson, and Porcupine Tree, I
Uh,
suppose. But it's sort of fallen off where bands like Gentle Giant and King Crimson and Genesis, those were
mhm.
really such a driving force in pop culture so long ago, and now it's more of a fringe thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's, those bands, kind of started out and in the 60s in Britain, kind of in a close little cluster, and then it's just permeated and driven everybody into their own direction. Because like I'm a huge Swans fan, and I think Swans has some elements of prog rock, even though they're like a little more drony and post rock, but it's
Hmm.
that just that simple idea of like not being the standard pop music, and trying to take music into uh, something new, that I think is kind of the overarching idea of prog rock. And so if they're making 30-minute songs, and that's kind of, I guess, like progressive in a way, and like something different.
Sure, sure. And I guess I've always sort of made the distinction between, uh, you know, I consider something prog rock if it's long, has symphonic roots in it in the
Uh,
song structure, and if it sort of tells a story, because it's almost like those are sort of the things that to me categorize what I consider prog rock.
yeah,
So where they're like telling an epic with this song. Um, but when these post rock bands, a lot of them don't have lyrical content, so it's just
yeah.
they're telling a story through the emotions of the melodies themselves, which I find so compelling. And
Oh, totally.
and I really do appreciate instrumental music. And at this point in my life, when I'm at work and I'm reading things that I need to read for work, I'll
Hmm.
put on some post rock or instrumental music, and it's almost at this point I hardly even listen to to anything with lyrical content these days when I'm just like in my normal day to day life for that reason.
Yeah, totally.
So it's been an important thing for me. Um, but
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
I I, I
go
do the
ahead.
same thing with like ambient music, or like kind of drony black metal, like that is there's no lyrics, but it's just kind of have it low, and it cuts out all the background noise, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have noticed this influence in your music from what I notice,
Hmm.
where I can tell that you're pulling influence from sort of this stoner or doom metal kind of
Yeah.
genre. I'm sure you're familiar with the likes of um, Electric Wizard
Yep.
and Stone Jesus and bands like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, if you could, I know we kind of got away from your origin story a little bit,
Sure.
but yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit? Maybe when you were in high school or anything like that, were you in band? Were there any sort of musical roots going back that far?
Yeah. I played saxophone from fifth grade to like all through high school, and unfortunately didn't stay with it after high school, and I now wish I would have. But I played saxophone for a long time, and I think I always wanted to play guitar, and I started playing guitar like at the end of middle school, and uh, I always wanted to play guitar, and it was like something where I had to kind of start by teaching myself, and I took a long time of like practicing and figuring it out. Um, and I wasn't forced to practice. I chose to practice, so I think that's why I got so much into guitar. And in high school, like I'd play for hours a day. But with saxophone, I always felt like I was being forced to practice, which it probably wasn't. But uh, and the music wasn't like playing saxophone in a symphonic band is really odd because most the pieces you're playing aren't were written before saxophones even existed, and so it's like not the most interesting music to play for like a tenor saxophone. Uh, so I never practiced, and I wasn't very good at saxophone, but I played guitar a ton, uh, and it kind of like I guess that's probably around middle school. I started really getting into like early metal, uh, like Iron Maiden uh, and a bunch of you know Black Sabbath and all the early like technical metal stuff, like Randy Rhoads, I think too was a big one. But and that like I don't know, that made me practice a lot because Iron Maiden is not easy to play, but that kind of like always drove me further into weirder metal. And I guess one philosophical thing that I've always had is like uh, I I've always been attracted to kind of like the taboo, and so like seeing something that everybody says is like satanic and like, oh, you can't listen to Slayer. It's like that makes me just want to fucking listen to Slayer. Like, uh, and so uh, yeah, that always kind of like pushed me further into things to now where like it doesn't sound good in metal if it's not like crazy black metal.
I hear
Just
you.
you just keep getting more extreme as you go along.
Yeah, and there's a little bit to unpack there on my end. So I feel like because I took saxophone myself when I was kind
Hmm.
of younger, and yeah, I think what you're touching on is something I do notice a lot with a lot of younger people is yeah, you feel constrained by just the classroom setting and the academic
Yeah,
approach to playing an instrument where yeah, I mean, not only is it sort of boring for you as a kid, you're playing music that you're out of touch with. It's not from your era. It's not even from this century a lot of times. So
totally.
so you're playing with a bunch of other people too. So that doesn't make it, you're not getting the gratification of playing up there with only like five other people. Your tenor saxophone is
Yeah,
one of however many harmony notes in there. So it's like, you sort of become part of this collective, and it's I know it, obviously there is something beautiful about symphonic music. I'm not going to like
sure.
trash that at all. But as a kid, you probably can't even begin to appreciate that all that much. So there's something a lot more attractive about getting into a garage with your buddies and turning on some amps and just playing music together. So there's
Yeah,
that. And then I think I can relate to you on just the whole like edginess factor of listening to music. I remember
yeah,
the first concert I actually ever went to was Superjoint Ritual, and
yeah.
that's Phil Ensemble from Pantera.
Pantera, yeah,
Yeah. So and I had to buy a shirt, of course, because they have a pentagram
yeah,
and a little pot leaf in the middle. So
totally.
so I can definitely relate to you in the whole like edginess. And yeah, I got into a lot of black metal such as Dimmu Borgir
Yeah,
and oh, I can't remember. I don't think this is more death metal, I guess, but Opeth. I was a huge Opeth fan,
yeah,
still am actually, and that kind of brings it back to prog too,
yeah,
where it's such a
totally.
versatile genre, and there's just so much to appreciate because it's we call it prog, but it really spans all of these different genres that we talk about. And
Yeah,
and Opeth probably probably one of my favorite bands of all time, actually. They have such an eclectic sonic discourse, like that one album. I don't remember if it's named Deliverance or I don't know. It's just like an all acoustic album, and you just wouldn't expect that. Where their next album they released was Ghost Reveries, and there's like a song about worshiping Satan or something, and it's all just super intense and doom like.
I haven't listened to OPEC too much, but I love like when bands do that, like change sounds and like Crimson did that a ton, where their first album, there's that classic prog sound, but there's like later albums that sound more like Tool than early King Crimson. So yeah, it's cool how everything always comes full circle, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not like super familiar with King Crimson. I mean, I know they're legends in prog rock. The one album I'm really familiar with is Wake of Poseidon.
Yeah,
that's my favorite that I've heard. But I've found it hard when I go to record stores to even find their albums anywhere. They seem to be sort of coveted pieces that don't end up on the shelves in the used rack all that much.
Yeah, I think totally, and I think there's a couple that they've like reissued, but Robert Fripp is kind of also in that school of like he's really protective of his copyright, which I think influenced like because Tool has that where like you can't download it on iTunes, it's not on Spotify, and yeah, I think Robert Fripp like all like his website has like all like an insane amount of King Crimson live shows, but it's like he definitely wants to control the copyright.
So maybe that's what it is.
That's why, they're not.
Yeah, so
not
maybe
around as much.
And whenever I go and buy music, unless it's something new that I really want right away, and I'll just buy it from iTunes. But I'm actually a big audiophile. I love to go and get records, so that's how I go and dig up old music. Is I'll go to the record store and pick up some used stuff. And yeah, maybe that is what it is. Maybe because of the copyright, they just never allow production companies to reprint, their records. Yeah, that makes sense. But and then one thing that you mentioned was that you like the taboo or to be provocative, and I think this song that you sent, Radio, is certainly in that vein, right? As the listeners will note, there's a track from there's audio from Pornography in the background there, which maybe some of my more socially conservative listeners might not like, but I like it because I too am really sort of into making people not making people feel uncomfortable, but there's like there's something in art where if it makes you question social norms, then you're sort of breaking new ground, right?
Oh, totally. And I think like a lot with that piece, it's about 30 minutes long, and I guess that's kind of the thing I'm trying to explore with it is the idea of like media and perception, where it's about 30 minutes long, and there's about 20 minutes of radio samples that I just took an old radio and just kind of like swept through the channels, AM channels, for about 20 minutes and saw what I could get. And how that relates to porn is like I feel like talk radio is very much like pornography. And so the radio samples were all done around the time of the Iowa caucuses. So there's like a bunch of like crazy political talk show hosts on there. Then there's like sports and crazy religious people. And
sounds like I am.
Yeah. And I feel like when you look at like pornography, it's like this fake reality and this fake world that you like escape to, where like everything's like overblown, and everything's uh, much bigger and more intense. Where it's like that's not really it's a stretch of the truth, and I feel like that's what like a lot of talk radio is because it's just like
Hmm.
if it's like there was a disagreement between two Congress people, it's not they disagreed on something. It's like they're slamming each other, and they're bashing each other, and it's like this person needs to resign immediately, and like it's kind of fake world
Yeah.
and fake reality that you go into to kind of like reinforce the stereotypes that you have and reinforce the whole bubble idea, the views that you have, uh, and that can be damaging. And then eventually, like you can go pretty much to where you're living in that reality, and that like overblown like conspiracy dramatic world is the world you live in.
And it's like there's a sort of accepted conspiracy theory that you can have, and the most common
Yeah,
one is that partisan politics. I mean, the
yeah,
conspiracy that the other side of politics is so driven to destroy the other side, and that they're driven by hatred, and each side thinks that
yep,
each other is driven by hatred, and that their side is driven by benevolence and love. And
yeah,
that's kind of like the most commonly accepted conspiracy theory, and it sort of plays into people's pleasure centers. Like there's something
yeah,
we all are attracted to, this sort of fear of another.
yeah. That's yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and I guess so in that piece, like with the kind of droning guitar, it's kind of like I guess be interpreted as like trying to drown out that influence uh, uh, on your life, and I don't know. I guess realizing what uh, realizing what or how people are influencing things using media, and then
Hmm.
but I guess also I'm trying to influence people using media as well.
Sure.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah, and I feel like this is a really apt theme for this project that I have going. One of my sort of
yeah,
catchphrases that I use is, you know, I take you away from the media that you're usually digesting, and I'm just going to bring you some music and some cool stories from some cool people, and
yeah,
and sort of in what I think is just trying to balance out the the fear mongering and the sort of terrible media, and that there is such thing as good media that
yeah,
is trying to do good things, make people not fear each other and not fear things that are out of their control. Honestly, that's what a lot of media is doing. A lot of news
yeah,
media, at least.
exactly, yeah.
So yeah, there's that. There's radio, and then this song that you have with your band, Electric Jury Contrarian. Now
Yeah,
this one, I think the title of it is pretty clear as to what the lyrical direction is in it. Now,
yeah,
you told me you're doing vocals on all of these songs, right?
yep,
and I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you wrote this. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so it's part of our uh, the full album, The Lake, that Electric Jury has is kind of a conceptual thing about narcissism and a lot of, I guess, me looking at myself and dissecting the bad parts of myself. I think one thing that I always say I'm like a recovering internet troll, and I probably still troll too much.
Yeah,
Uh,
I understand, man. It's easy to get on, and it kind of goes back to the whole pleasure centers thing, right? I mean,
oh,
it feels
totally.
good to just go trash someone that you don't agree with and that you think that you have the intellectual upper hand on, and
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we're all guilty of it.
Yeah, and the internet allows you to do that so much easier
Hmm.
now, and so that's kind of like uh I guess I like have gotten to a realization of like that was like what I was doing, and living with this kind of like contrarian philosophy. I think it's good. uh Contrarianism is good in one sense because it is good to question things, and questioning authority and like questioning what is right. But at on the other hand, I think it also pushes you um, um, away from society and uh, more inward, and uh, I think can make you very angry, um, and that's kind of what the song "Contrarian" is about. Is about me getting letting myself get angry because of just uh, a way to be different, I guess,
Sure.
and it shaping a new reality, and yeah, I think that's yeah. But then I guess I also believe that you can like overcome that and
Hmm.
be a better person, uh, and so that's kind of like what that is about, I guess, is like letting your true self drift away and becoming someone else, um, because we fear death ultimately, and there's a line in it that says, "When fear takes control, we become primal. Uh, we seek to destroy, or we seek." Oh shit! Now I can't even remember my own lyrics.
That's all right.
We seek to destroy and descend into the void,
Yep.
and like I feel that's true. Like we as human beings have this primal fear of death, whether it's conscious in the moment or subconscious. We're always acting out of a fear of you know of death as a means of a survival mechanism. Like you're conscious or subconsciously like not going to put your hand on a hot grill because you don't want to burn yourself, and it's that primal fear.
Hmm.
And I guess in a bigger way, like which I guess what I'm trying to say with the song is that primal fear of like not being accepted can feel threatening and like cause you to like lash out, and um yeah, let your fear take control, uh, as a way to protect yourself, and that fear can turn into anger and uh, yeah,
Right.
other unhealthy stuff, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the whole reason why I end on the subject of mortality on this show. I mean, you really condensed it as to why I even bring it up, because I think that it is so. It's something that it's the third rail. It is always the elephant in the room. You know,
Oh yeah.
that's what drives us. It's what makes us want to build a legacy when we look for a partner to have kids with.
Yeah.
It's why I would argue with a lot of musicians, and with myself as well. With this project, I want to leave something behind, where in some sort of way, I am always in the ether, like always in this cyberspace, at least, like if I were to die in a
Yeah.
car wreck tomorrow, at least there are these, some interviews that I did, and there's something left there.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I think really in a nutshell, like that's all art is trying to figure out uh, what life means, and struggling with uh, the like absurd reality that there is no meaning,
Hmm.
uh, and it's just trying to, I guess, figure that out. So yeah, uh, and it's, I guess this might be a tangent, but like on death, one thing I've always thought is interesting is that, like, I'm an atheist. I grew up Catholic, but
Likewise, I grew up
uh,
I grew up Lutheran.
yeah, and I've always, I don't know uh, if if you think this way or felt this way, but I've always found it interesting that a lot of atheists I know will always say they don't fear death. They're like, oh, I'm comfortable with death. Like, I'm not afraid of it. Uh, Whereas like Christians or Muslims or Jews or Hindus, or I guess any religious person is probably afraid of death, which I've always found interesting because, like, I'm very afraid of death. It's like I know when I die, I'm dead, and that it all stops. Like, and because of that, I don't want to die. Uh,
Right.
Whereas like religious people have always found it interesting that they like do fear death, because it's like, well, if you believe there's an invisible man in the sky, like, wouldn't you want to go live with the invisible man in the sky that did all the shit for you?
Hmm.
But I don't know. I guess maybe if you believe in reincarnation, it depends on if you lived a good life or not.
Yeah.
Like if you've been like a shitty person, maybe you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to die because I'm gonna become a rock like next time. So
Yeah. said it pretty close to how I feel about it. I mean, I every once in a while still have that sort of that childlike fear that just like kind of hits you in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah.
That someday you're not going to be here, and it's really hard to come to terms with. And I did notice there's a song called "Nihilist" in your
Yeah.
album there, and in some ways, I certainly am compelled by the Nietzsche and Max Stirner, who actually I'm starting to read some Stirner right now.
I've never read anything of his.
You,
Yeah.
you should. It's interesting. He gets associated with political things, like because he hung out with Friedrich Engels a lot.
Okay.
But the thing is, he really, it's like he's like a pan-anarchist sort of figure in a way, where libertarians on the Ayn Rand side of things and libertarians on the Noam Chomsky side of things sort of revere and dislike him at the same time because of his socio-political tendencies. At the same time, though, ultimately his message comes down to the individual should be the arbiter of his actions and his environment, from what I understand. But also, this existential nihilism is certainly there with it too. But yeah, we're not to get on too many different tangents here.
Oh, that's all good.
But we're sort of running kind of out of time here. So why don't you talk a little bit about what was this third one you had here? Mountain Wizard.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, that's a newer tune. It's kind of just a demo recording right now. But since I moved out to Seattle, I've gotten a lot more opportunity to write for myself, which I think is something I didn't do a lot when I lived in Iowa, especially the last few years, because the last few years I was playing in a lot of bands and playing with a lot of people, and that definitely was not a bad thing. It was a really fun few years, and I played, I think, the last like 2 or 3 years I've played at least 150 shows a year with a bunch of different people, and because of that I never, like, my solo stuff always kind of played like a secondary role, and I never really focused on it too much or wrote too much for it, and since I've moved to Seattle I'm just playing by myself, and now I've had a lot of time to work on solo stuff, and I've written a lot of songs. Like most of the stuff I've been playing at open mic nights, and the couple shows I've had is all stuff that I've written since I moved out here. And yeah, so that's been fun, and I've kind of am going. I think compared to the last album, I guess I put out was like the radio one, which is much more droney and dark and a lot of weird stuff. And this is the new stuff I've been doing is a lot more minimalist.
Sure.
I think I since I moved out here, I also started listening to Nick Drake a lot, which Dang Felton turned me on to him, and his album Pink Moon I really like because it's just mostly just guitar and vocals, and it's some really great guitar playing, and so that's kind of what I've been wanting to do now, and just stripping a lot of things away. But yeah, this song Mountain Wizard is kind of along similar themes. It's a lot to do with narcissism, because I'll admit I'm pretty narcissistic. I love the Facebook likes.
Yeah,
we all do, and
at least you're able to admit it, because a lot of people try to humble brag about it.
Oh yeah, no, like that's the social soma, like, but yeah, and it's and that I guess kind of goes into what we were talking about a little bit earlier, is you can fall into a different reality, Um, and I don't write a lot of love songs, but I guess there's like kind of a love song esque part to it. Like the chorus is about kind of the Echo and Narcissus idea, like pull me away from the lake, um, that uh, that I'm staring into, like before I drown. Uh, and the lake could be, which in the Electric Jury album, the lake, uh, it's that's similar idea, like the idea of a Facebook stream or a feed is just like the lake that you stare into to, um, you know, get the likes and have everything reflect back on yourself. And so I guess this is kind of like the love song aspect comes from like wanting somebody that's gonna pull you away from just going down the rabbit hole, I guess, and losing yourself and drowning in it.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was curious what the theme was, and I think that's a really beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The song the
go
song
ahead.
title has nothing to do with it though. It's there's a podcast I really like called Last Podcast on the Left,
Okay.
and they were talking about Om Shinrikyo, which is this like Japanese death cult from like the 90s
Brutal.
uh, that did this like sarin gas attack on the subways, and was
Oh.
fortunately like it went wrong, and I don't think it killed very many people, but it could have killed a lot, which
Yeah.
is pretty fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But before when they were talking about it, it's like before they were Om Shinrikyo, the cult was called Mountain Wizard. And when I heard that, I was like, that sounds so fucking cool. Mountain Wizard, like that sounds like a prog rock Delta Blues album. Like that just sounds like a prog rock album name. So
Yeah.
that's where the name comes from.
I can see you see through all my lies. I've told myself, shield truth from my eyes.
hardly ever write love songs. I think I
Yeah.
really appreciate that because for as much as I love like the Black Keys and such,
Uh-huh.
I do get kind of annoyed by the one theme in almost every song is about some girl, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we've heard that story told many different
Yeah.
ways, and again, I love the Black Keys, it, and this is just like me being a snob, kind of, you know, but
No, no, yeah, it's I feel exactly the same way. Like, and I think that's what attracts me to a lot of the proggier bands, like Pink Floyd. Like, there's not a lot of love songs that
right,
Roger Waters wrote, but he was dealing with that kind of existential thing of like I think the song "Time" is a perfect example of like dealing with the reality of getting older and trying to find meaning and losing time. And I've always been attracted to stuff like that, or like stuff that's been politically charged, and that's, like, I guess, could go back to when we first started talking about just being into taboo. Like, I was really into Marilyn Manson
hmm sure,
when Marilyn Manson was big, and I like music that challenges your way of thinking. Like,
hmm
I'd much rather listen to like Meshuggah, um, which is, they're a pretty proggy metal band,
hmm
uh, than like Bob Dylan anymore. And it's not
yeah,
because I don't like Bob Dylan, but it's like I'm not, I guess, as interested in the love stuff as like Meshuggah talking about like Hobbes Leviathan. It's like, why are you talking
mm.
about that in a metal song? And they're like, cause we from Sweden, what do smart.
yeah,
And I think a lot of times people overlook stuff like that because there's the like extremeness of the music. Like, it's loud and it sounds scary.
hmm
um and then it gets discounted as like, oh, this is bad or something, and
yeah,
or
it's
these they
like
have a
degenerate,
bad.
degenerate
Yeah,
music or whatever.
e- exactly. And it's like, actually, like, Meshuggah's actually talking about some pretty complicated issues,
hmm
and a lot of like political issues, and it's very like smart and informed music. uh um and I don't know, I've always been attracted to stuff like that, instead of, yeah, like the love stuff, because I don't know anymore. I just like, I used to try to like write bluesy love songs, but
hmm
then I was just like, I feel like it's been done, and
Yep,
it's like, I'm never gonna do it as good as like Elmore James.
sure.
Like, uh, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's long and rambling.
Oh, that's fine. But there, I think for me, I mean, I do appreciate a good love song because it's obviously one of the things that is going to drive people,
Yeah, totally.
and especially someone with an affinity to creating blues music. I mean, loneliness is, one of the plights of any individual, I feel like.
Yeah,
And but I think for me, the reason why I get so turned off by it is my own neuroses and my own narcissism, where
sure.
I see something in that sort of song or that sort of style of lyricism where it turns me off because it reminds me so much of myself. So it's like this
Yeah,
self-loathing in a way. And
yeah,
but I mean, obviously it's not, like I said, it's not a problem for me all the time. It's just when it's like the whole album is that's
yeah,
that's what can annoy me.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, and I really don't like to sound like such a snob, but
No,
I'm
no,
a
I
critic.
totally agree
I'm a
with that.
critic. Uh, but but anyway, I think yeah, it can be done, um, in good taste, more or less, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm always like an enigma myself, because I say that, but like the album I've been listening to a lot lately is "Natural Force" by Bonnie Tyler,
Okay.
and it's all like love songs. And do you know Bonnie Tyler?
I don't. I'm going to
She's
have to go through this whole thing and take a lot of the artists that you're mentioning and and make myself a playlist because I haven't recognized a lot of them, and I'm sure they're all pretty great.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, totally.
Go
Bonnie
ahead.
Tyler, she did like Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Okay, sure.
Uh, and before like that big song, she did this album called Natural Force, and it's really good. But it's all just kind of like cheesy, kind of country love songs,
Hmm.
and I don't know. There's something I really like about it. Uh, yeah,
No, I'm into it, and I think if you're a fan of kind of the old school country,
yeah,
you certainly do have to recognize the roots of what sort of drives that genre.
oh yeah,
Because when I listen to Johnny Cash, I can about expect that half or all of the songs on a given album are going to be about some love interest that went wrong.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, totally.
but yeah, why don't we get to the final question here? Um,
Sure.
so, do you remember a time in your life when you were a kid when you realized your mortality?
I don't know if there. I was thinking about that, and it's like I don't know if there was ever a particular point. Uh, um, and it was more just like gradual, where like I was not to talk about atheism more, but like I was thinking back on that because I think for me the two ideas are linked, and I was going back and thinking like I remember when I first really realized I didn't believe in God, and that was you know when I was going through confirmation, uh, like I remember we had to talk to a priest at during one of the things, and we're supposed to talk about the process of where we were at and everything. I remember asking him all these questions because we also had to like read the Bible a bunch, and I'd been doing that, and when I started reading the Bible and I started realizing like there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, and so I started asking the priest that, and then his response was like, "Well, just have faith." And it's like, "Well, I'm trying, but you're just telling me to have faith. Like, well, you gotta give me a little bit more." And then that's kind of when I realized like, yeah, this shit doesn't exist. But then I started thinking about it. It's like I don't know if I ever really believed in a god, but I think after that point, like then I started realizing and thinking more like, yeah, like we're all just slowly dying, uh, and I guess it's not a particular moment where like I realized like, oh, I could like I constantly on the edge of death, uh, or realizing mortality, but like I guess I realize more lately like how fast time goes by, uh, that I didn't realize when I was younger, and uh, like you find yourself getting comfortable where you are, and that can comfort's a good thing, but it can also just like inhibit you, and you especially like a night after you wake up from too much drinking and then you sleep around all day, or not sleep around, sleep in all day. Uh, you kind of get to that point where like yeah, when you're younger you don't think about that, but now it's like wow, I wasted an entire day, and you look at yourself and it's like I haven't done much today, and then you start judging your entire past life and you're like wow, 10 years just happened and it went by so quick, and uh uh yeah, I guess that's mostly what like I think about with mortality. It's just like it's gonna end, and I gotta make the most of the time now. uh yeah, so I don't know if there's a particular moment, but and gradually over time like just coming to that realization has been my experience, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah, and it's like half and half of my guests remember a particular moment, and
Mm,
the other half don't. It's just something that's always fascinated me.
Yeah.
How other people have came to it. So, but I think I know what you mean in that you sort of look back in your
Mhm.
life at the last 5, 10 years, and you wonder, like what did I do with that time really, you know, um, and I didn't really start thinking about it too much until I got into my 20s, and I start thinking, I'm 27. I was 17 10 years ago. That's just a really odd thing to think about. That
Yeah.
it's like the
Exactly.
20s, your 20s is a really odd time because you still feel like you're young. You still kind of, in some ways, I forget that I'm not a teenager anymore, and then I think,
Yeah.
oh shit, like I was a teenager 10 years ago. I'm a goddamn adult now. I pay my damn
Yeah.
bills and shit. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to go beg my parents for money anymore.
Yeah.
When did this happen? When did I become an adult that was fully responsible for himself?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Because like nobody really tells you, like,
Yeah,
and you. I feel like sometimes I've been putting off the idea of being an adult, uh, and maybe that's why like I went to school for journalism and graduated with a degree, and then I never really did it because I was more focused on music, and maybe it was like doing journalism was or like doing a job in the field that I got a degree in was like me becoming an adult and me working. I work at a t-shirt printing shop now, and I did that in Des Moines for 3 years, and like doing jobs like that. Maybe that's just me putting off my idea of becoming an adult and trying to stay young. But then I realized it's like no, I'm living the life I want to live because
hmm
like I playing music is important to me, and it's one of the only things that I think really matters to me, and that's what I want to do. And like because I might not be making all my money off of it yet, uh, like that doesn't mean like I can't in the future.
sure,
And I think that's like we're always like kind of told like anybody in art or any creative field, it's always like you're told like oh there's like if you want to be a musician, it's like well you got to be like Kelly Clarkson or something
hmm
and get to like that success level, and then you can do it. Which is like I don't know, telling like somebody who wants to go into like banking that like oh so you want to be like the Federal Reserve chairman, and it's like no, there's a lot of people do banking just
yeah,
at a very small level. It's like and if you can do music or art at a level where you can support yourself, that's kind of the whole point now.
yeah.
uh and so I guess that's kind of what I'm realizing that I've been trying to do is just get to a point where I can make the art I want to make and live the best life possible from that. So maybe I'm not putting off adulthood. It's just realizing that I shape the adulthood that I have. I don't
Sure,
know.
sure. No, and so much has probably changed since the time that you decided to go into journalism. And I have to
Yeah.
say, I'm happy for you that you didn't go into it because it's a soul sucking uh, job to be in because you really have to sell your soul.
Oh yeah,
Because of
totally.
like we were talking about earlier with how media works, you're selling a conspiracy, more or
Yeah.
less. And a lot of it is not honest. You're not bringing the raw facts because the raw facts don't sell anymore.
Yeah.
There's there was this journalist. Her name was Cheryl Atkinson, and she tried to bring some of this information out. I think just at like MSNBC, like some big media outlet,
Hmm.
and it challenged the intelligence community's narrative because she actually got some boots on the ground reporting on something. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what the deal was, but basically the her boss told her, "Oh yeah, maybe we'll run it, maybe we won't," and just kept getting dismissed like that because
Yeah.
you know, and I don't want to fall into conspiracy land myself,
Sure.
because I don't know if it's as much that the intelligence community wants to bring this information to market, as it were, um, out of some sinister reason. It might just be more that this is how you garner some lukewarm support for what you do. But anyway, the truth really doesn't have a voice in journalism. So I almost wish more good people would go into journalism. But how do you get heard? Like you have to go through this grassroots, like ground up arena on the internet. And what you get when you get alternative media is you see people like Slate, Mother Jones, InfoWars, and Breitbart. Like the biggest voices aren't any better in the realm of facts than the mainstream media. It's only it's a twisted version of that. So
and they're even more propaganda.
They whereas the obviously and I don't really like to get too crazy into politics, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's coming from a lot of places. So anyway, all I was trying to say was I feel better for you that I think you're doing a lot more for the world by creating music, honestly. And that's just my bias, though, because I find art to be a lot more important than what journalism is usually, what mainstream journalism has become. It's not even journalism anymore, really. The only journalists I really respect anymore are the people who are sneaking into Yemen and Syria and actually observing what's going on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Or your local courts reporter.
Or what?
Your local courts reporter. Those are the best people.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The guy going to the courts every day.
Yeah, the stuff that is always on like what page 8, side D or something. The stuff that isn't on the front page is the real meat of what's going on. Definitely. Yeah. That's a good point.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, I think we're sort of hitting the brink of my time here.
Sure.
So yeah, I'd like to thank you for coming on here, sharing your music. I really like what you're doing, and
thank you, man. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be paying attention. Are there any plugs that you want to make for any places people can buy your music, places that they can see you? Do you go play shows anywhere outside of Seattle?
Not too much right now. I've played in Seattle and Olympia, and I'd like to get down to Olympia a little bit more, and maybe Portland, definitely the surrounding area, and hopefully sometime I can make it back to do some shows in Iowa. But yeah, right now, as far as music goes, I've got all my solo albums are on dylanboyle.bandcamp.com, and then our Electric Jury album, The Lake, you can purchase on iTunes, which would be cool, or you can listen to it on Spotify, which is cool as well. And definitely, if you feel like sharing it with anyone, we really appreciate that, obviously. But yeah, thanks for having me on. This has been really fun.
I really like what Dylan's doing with Electric Jury. Had a lot of fun sitting down and talking to him. So please go out and support local artists. Electric Jury and Dylan himself have music for sale. So I urge you to go and check that out. And also go ahead and give to my charity project this week that I am promoting, which you can find at donorcy.com/project/487. This goes to fund sewing machines for these girls in Uganda so that they can become more financially stable and provide for themselves, which is a great thing. Now, I want to just say before you leave here that I am trying to grow this show, and I would like to have 1,000 weekly listeners by this time next year. To do that, I need your help to share the show. Because with growing podcasts, the thing that really spreads them most is when you actually go out and talk to people and engage people on the content of the show and direct them towards it. So if you could do me the huge favor of, I don't know, whenever it could come up in conversation, just keep it in the back of your mind. Let people know if anybody's looking for new podcasts to listen to, or if you just know Music Nut in your life that would get a kick out of getting an hour of an interview with an independent musician every week. I would really appreciate it if you could reach out and give me a hand here. Also, if you or anyone that you know is a musician and would like to be on Subversion, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Facebook. My name is Trey Weaver. Send me a message there. You can also find a line of contact to me in the contact page of my website, which is subversionwebcast.com. And there will be a little contact tab. Just click on that. You can get there. So yeah, really appreciate you all tuning in. It really does mean a lot to me, each and every one of you. And I hope to have you here next week. So please, until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you then.